Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to another week of home learning. It's Monday, and we are going to be starting off our English this week with reading, like we have been for the last few weeks. And in particular, we're going to be looking at an aspect of reading which we are all familiar with, and that is to do with answering inference-based questions on the text that we have been reading. And basically that means that we have to pick up the ideas from the text that are not always written in the text itself. And what you need to think about is that you're almost like a detective trying to work out what could be inferred from the information that you have read. All right? And to do this, you need to read the text as if you are that type of detective. You're not looking for what is there, you're looking for what is meant by it. So, for example, if the text says Jenny's face was red, she wrinkled her brow and began to shout, what could you infer about how Jenny feels? So just have a think about that. What would you say about Jenny? How do you think that she was feeling? Well, for me, I would probably say that maybe that she was angry or frustrated. Now, why would I say that? Well, her face was red. Sometimes when you're angry, your face does turn red. She wrinkled her brow. Okay? Sometimes when you are angry, your brow sort of wrinkles up. Began to shout, another thing that you do when you're angry. Right? So it doesn't inform me that she's either angry or frustrated, but I can infer from the information that I've read that that's maybe how she is feeling. So there's different types of questions that you could be asked, and they are written in different ways. And I'm just going to go through some of those examples before you're going to have a go at putting your inference skills to the test. So the first types of questions is the ticket type questions. Now we're used to these types of questions. It tells you something about a text you've read, it gives you some information, and then it asks you to tick one or maybe two of the boxes in terms of what you think they are trying to mean by what is actually written within the question. It says, be careful, always check how many options the questions want you to tick. So if it's asking you to tick one, you only need to tick one. If it's asking you to tick two, you need to tick two. Now, like I've said beforehand, with these questions where you've got normally the choice of 4 possible answers, if you're ticking one and you're not too sure, you can narrow down some of those options because you just know that that's not what that is inferring at all. So sometimes you may narrow it down to maybe 1 or 2, and that's really good if you've done that. Sometimes you'll just be able to think, oh, I can infer from that, and I know what the answer is, and that's brilliant. So that's a ticket type question. The next type of questions are the W's and the H questions. Many inference questions begin with one of these types of question words: who, what, where, when, why, how. You need to look at the text and try to be that detective. Why did they do that? What did they mean by it? And it's not going to tell you in the text. That's what you have to infer. And that's why you're acting like a detective, right? For example, question 24 here, why were the dodos curious and afraid? So what you've read about the dodos, what can you infer about them being curious and unafraid? So that's the W and H type questions, those question words. Another example is a multiple answer questions. Now, these are quite nicely set out because you can see at question 15, it says give 2 points, and it gives you that space to answer those questions. Question 10 on the right-hand side, it says, what are the 3 ways? And it says on there, 1, 2, and 3. So you know that those are as many answers as you need to give to be able to be getting those marks. All right. And it says answer these by looking for different ways that characters act or behave, which may show how they are feeling. For example, if a character is angry, they might stamp their feet, shout, go red in the face. Those sorts of things where you look right at the beginning about Jenny. Right? What clues are there about maybe how someone is feeling? So that's a multi-answer type question. Another type of question to do with inference is the fact or opinion type questions. And actually, it can be easy ways of getting them right. right? If you know the difference between what a fact is and an opinion, what makes something a fact and what makes something an opinion. Now, in this example, it will say a statement and it will ask you, well, is that a fact or is that an opinion based on what it is within the context of the text that you have actually read? Right? Now, for these ones, you just need to tick which one you think it is. So it's not asking you to do much apart from be that detective and think that what statement you have read, do you believe that's a fact or an opinion? Now, the more trickier ones are these extended responses. And you may notice that it does show that some of these could be worth 3 marks, for example. And that's because this type of question gives you the chance to gain 3 marks. And what they usually require is 2 acceptable answers, of one which needs to be supported with evidence from the text. Now, if you think about reading skills that you've used over the years and this APE approach, the answer it, prove it with evidence from the text, and explain it. And that basically means, what does that evidence suggest? So I have often taught my class the way to answer in that is just putting an A to answer the question, the P, writing down the evidence from the text, and then the E, explaining or suggesting what that evidence means. And that's a good way of doing it because you're then focusing your answer in a specific way to try and answer it as best you can. All right? These are really tricky, and we're going to be doing some more work on these over the coming weeks. But types of questions that you may get asked in terms of inference type questions. So what might inference questions ask? Right, we've already gone through some, but some other examples. What makes you think? Give evidence to support your answer. What impression are we given about? Why? Why did the character behave this way? How does this character feel about the situation? How do you know? Why is something important? Explain your answer. Which character would you most like to meet? Explain why. Now, like I said at the beginning, those answers aren't going to be in the text like those retrieval type answers are. You are being that detective to try and work out what you have read and what that could suggest about something. Now, we're used to this. Now is your opportunity to have a go. Now, it's a Raven's Peril again. We've read this paragraphs or few paragraphs over and over again over the last few weeks, so you should be familiar with it. But this time, it's all about inference type questions. So read the chapters. You've read it before, so you should know it quite well. And then have a look at the questions to do with inference on the next page. These are the questions. So we've got a ticket, multiple choice one. The second one, give one way. And then the third one, what impression is the reader given about a character? So what I'd like you to do is pause the video, read the text, think about the question and where you are going to get that evidence from. Now, what we've done in the past is underlined where you're getting that evidence for your answer. And that will be a really good starting point to help you try and answer them. So have a go at that, pause the video, and when you feel like you've had a good go, unpause the video, and I'll go through how I answered those questions. Well done for giving it a go. Now, what you've noticed on this next thing is that I've got bits which I have underlined in different colours. Now, that's where I've gathered the information from to try to infer to answer those questions posed. So take the time looking at the next couple of pages. What colours or what text has been underlined with what colour and how I've answered it. And on the next page is the answers which I've either underlined in that colour and ticked or written it in that particular colour as well. So take the time to have a look and see if you've got similar answers to me. And then your task for you to have a go on your own is using an unexpected guest text and answering the questions based on that. Now, towards the bottom of that text are the actual answers. So once you've given it a go and you've given your answers, have a look to see how you got on with doing it. Well done, everybody, for today's reading. Enjoy it, and I will see you next week for some more reading.